Let's keep going. We're still adding and subtracting square roots, and these simplify. 3/4 square root of 192 minus 5/6 times the square root of 108. Now, none of these numbers are that fun, and I don't recognize things about 192 so far. So I'm going to do a prime factor tree to help me out a little bit. 192 is 2 times 96. 96 is the same thing as 2 times 48. Now I'm getting somewhere. 48 is 16 times 3. So the important thing is that this is 16 times 3 times 2 times 2, or 16 times 12. I don't recognize 108 either, so I'm going to use a factor tree to help me out. 108 is 2 times 54, and 54 is 9 times 6, so this means the number is 9 times 6 times 2, or 9 times 12, and now I'm ready to make some progress. So when I go back to my work, I would have 3/4, and I just figured out that 192 is the square root of 16 times the square root of 12 minus 5/6, and I just figured out that 108, this is getting messy, is the square root of 9 times the square root of 12. Sorry about the mess here. But the square root of 16 is 4, so I have 3/4 times 4 times the square root of 12. And I just noticed something. Minus 5/6 times 3 times the square root of 12. This is 3 square root of 12 minus 15/6 square root of 12. Man, there's a lot involved here. And remember that this is the same thing as 18 over 6 root 12 minus 15 over 6 root 12, which would be 3/6, or 1/2 root 12. And I wish I was done, but root 12 goes further. This is 1/2 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 3. And since the square root of 4 is just 2, 1/2 times 2 is 1. My final answer is the square root of 3. That's a pretty involved problem. I would rewind that if that was tricky to follow. Let's practice one like it. Well, we know that we'll have 2/3 times the square root of 108 minus 5/7 times the square root of 147. Now 108 I did earlier, and that was 9 times 12. But that means it's also 3 times 3 times 12. And I didn't think about this last time, which means it's 3 times 36. I'm going to use that form. 147. There's another one I'm not familiar with. But I do see that that's 7 and 21, which means that it's 7 times 3, which means it's got to be 7 times 7 times 3, or 49 times 3. Now I'm more comfortable with these numbers, because 108, as we said, is the square root of 36 times the square root of 3, and 147 was the square root of 49 times the square root of 3. That's not so involved. And since the square root of 36 is just 6, and the square root of 49 is just 7, we would end up with 4 root 3 minus 5 root 3, which is negative 1 root 3. The thing that's tricky about these problems is that there's a lot to keep track of. So I'd review these once or twice before you get too far into it.